All right, I knew I forgot something extremely important from why I intercede. So part two. That's really comes down to probably one of the biggest problems in organic farming is where do you get your nitrogen from? Because there's not enough manure out there for everyone to throw down poultry or hog manure that's high enough nitrogen. You can put a lot down, get high yields. But so the solution is growing your own, of course, and the issue with growing something like clover and alfalfa, whatnot, and plowing it down is there's not really that big of an issue, but the nitrogen only hangs around for so long, and especially from sources like legumes that get disked under, plowed under, you lose a whole lot of nitrogen when the corn is, this obviously is not the situation, but your corn is very small. Your nitrogen needs are small at that point in the year when you have the most nitrogen in your field. In fact, it's like saturating to a point where it's kind of a problem for soil biology because it's kind of over revved, and at that same moment you have a small plant, a lot of black dirt if you're doing the regular way of organic farming, and you're just not utilizing that nitrogen. It's basically going towards burning off organic matter, and I think like CO2 in the atmosphere is one of the big byproducts. So you need nitrogen later in the year, when the plants are much larger and they're getting into reproductive mode. And that's when a lot of that cover crops nutrition has been used up. The nitrogen's been burned off in that process. But if you have a cover crop there to grab those nutrients when your cash crop is young, hold on to them, and then with crimping or mowing or something, or cultivation, putting them back into the nutrient cycle rotation and into your cash crop when it's bigger and ready to grab up all that nutrition and grow and flower and set seed. And so it's basically I think a really great solution for that problem of if you're using a cover crop plow down for your nitrogen. I think this is a great way to kind of hang on to stuff and store it. And the other thing is, for example, with soybeans, calcium and sulfur. Those are huge if you want to grow a really awesome soybean crop. So now we're in the bright field for that. Sulfur is leachable. Calcium sinks down into the soil. And a big reason why we have stuff like foxtail and other things that come up in soybeans, I believe, is because it is a mechanism for bringing calcium back up to the surface. That's essentially all weeds, that's a major role they play in nutrient cycling, is bringing things back to the surface. Can recycle. Calcium needs that action. And soybeans are basically calling out for calcium, and that's probably part of the mechanism that triggers weeds to grow in your soybeans, because it's calling out for that to happen, and so then those plants germinate to serve that purpose. Anyways, guess what? Brassica's very good at accumulating calcium and sulfur. So if we can get a good kill with my crimper on this stuff, that hopefully will be then made available with the biology eating it to the soybeans, you know, when it needs it for bulking up and flowering and everything else. So, and also mustard, just like buckwheat, is a very awesome CDN ratio, very low CDN, C to carbon to nitrogen ratio. In fact, mustard is a lower carbon to nitrogen ratio, I believe. So it should break down even more readily. Like I say, this is the first year doing this on a whole field. I've only ever done it on a small plot as an experiment. So we'll see what happens with the crimper. And I guess the last thing I'll just add on to there is building soil structure is ultimately how we're getting air into the soil. Guess what? Soybeans need air to get in the soil to feed its nitrogen fixing bacteria. So, you know, I think cultivation does open up the top of the soil, but if you want deeper penetration of air into layers where there's a lot more soybean roots, I think you want deep aggregation. Additionally, deeper aggregation of the soil, that air getting down deeper is how we ultimately defeat thistles. Pretty much every organic farmer, I'm sure, knows thistles have a partnership with anaerobic bacteria that is able to give them massive amounts of nitrogen in exchange for, I guess, sugars probably. So we get air down there, that anaerobic environment dissipates and the thistles can no longer grow. I can't say definitely haven't eradicated thistle, but it's slowly become less and less vigorous. Last 5 years, I'd say. So hopefully eventually goes away completely. But yeah, in the long run, soil health means fewer weed problems. So it's all a very long game weed control strategy as well, doing all this cover cropping, as well as yields. Yeah, I think in the long run, definitely beneficial, especially for highly degraded soils like mine. All right, that's it. Thank you.